Okay, welcome everyone. We are also streaming on YouTube. So this is going to be recorded and you can view this batch cooking demo on YouTube. Okay, so in today's batch cooking, we're going to cook sweet potato noodles and we're going to cook the spinach tomato black bean soup. Hello everyone, welcome to today's cooking demo. We are doing a little demo about batch cooking as we always do on Sundays. And we are in week number 3 of the challenge. But anyone else who's not joining the challenge currently, it is the same meal plan, but it's in the winter meal planner and that's week number 6. So I don't want to confuse you. Regardless, we have the same meal plans, which is the challenge or the meal plans for regular members. It's the same meal plan. So don't be confused. We're talking about one and the same thing. Before I get started, if you have any questions, please utilize our Q&A button on the bottom of the screen where you can place your questions in. And if you want to chat, you can do this in the chat of this Zoom feature. In this case, I know I have to answer questions or not. Okay, so I see we have one question already. Okay, it's just a hi. Okay. So please put your, if you say hello to everyone else, just put it in the chat. Everything else goes, if you have question, goes in the Q&A here on the bottom of the Zoom feature. Okay, great. Welcome everyone. Let's see. Nice. Okay, welcome everyone. Okay, let's get started. That's okay, Donna. No worries. Good. I'm going to start with the black bean soup because the black bean soup needs to cook a little bit longer. The sweet potato noodles, we're going to start right after the soup when the soup is on the back burner. So that's very important. Batch cooking is always about the dish that takes the longest. We start with that. And once that is simmering away, we're going to start the next dish. So I basically want you to adopt a chef's mentality so to speak, when you start cooking. Some of you have limited time. Some of you only have an hour, 2 hours of time. So from that point of view, I would rather, teach you how to cook really quick and fast and efficient instead of staying 3-4 hours in front of the stove. That's why we started with the recipe what takes the longest. You can look it up on the recipes. There's always a time. It says how much time you need to prep and how much cooking time you need. So if you add this together, that's your approximate time you need in order to get your cooking done. And when you have 2 or 3 recipes you'd like to cook, you take the recipe that takes the longest, and then the second longest, and then the shortest. Okay. So that's how we cook in a restaurant. We start with the one what takes the longest, and then work our way towards the one what takes only 5-10 minutes. Okay. Good. Obviously, preparation is key when you start prepping for your meals. Let's say you have 2 or 3 recipes. You look at all the recipes. Let's say most recipes use onions. So you cut the total amount of onions you need for all 3 recipes. Meaning if it's 3 times 1 cup or 3 times, 1 onion, then you cut 3, you peel and dice 3 onions. That's what I mean. So you can put it all in one container if you want, or put it in separate, but that's going to be a lot of bowls. I put it in one, for instance. I cut my carrots and my celery I put it in one bowl. It's actually for 2 recipes. Okay, so I need equal amount for both, so that's fine. And everything is cut already. My onions are cut. My sweet potatoes are cut. The sweet potato noodles, my mushrooms, and I have my spices ready to use. My beans are drained, so I have everything ready. So otherwise, you know, I wouldn't be able to show you how to cook. It would take forever. But if you do this for yourself, cooking is a breeze. I know that many people cook one thing at a time. So basically, if it's one dish, one recipe, they go from top to bottom and they start cooking and they're peeling the onions and then they cut the onions. So it's taking time instead of prepping everything beforehand. And then you put your pan on the stove and you keep rocking. That's how you can cook much, much faster and get everything done in no time. That's why I'm trying to teach you how to cook the fastest way possible. Okay. Obviously, if you love cooking, well, be my guest and cook as long as you want. But a lot of us don't have the time, so we want to make sure that we get everything done, because in the end, the more food you have prepped and you have put in a refrigerator or in a freezer, the better you are prepared for the week to come. So basically, you don't want to come home on a Wednesday or Thursday night, find yourself in an empty refrigerator, and then what? Then you have to go out or order in, and you know that's not going to be the food you want to eat. Okay, good. Let's get started with our black bean soup. Crank up the heat here. I'm going to change my camera as usual. Okay, as you know, for anyone who's new, I cook without oil, and put it here so you can see that. So in a restaurant, I would actually cook both meals at the same time, or I would cook 3, 4. You know, I have 5 burners. I would literally cook 5 meals at the same time. But I cannot do this here because we have beginners here, and it's not fair to them. So that's why I cook one dish at a time. But for anyone who is very, who is good in cooking, who is good with prepping, and who has an eye for attention, you certainly can cook everything to the same time. I would put on all the pans here, and then I keep rocking. Saute all my onions, because most of the meals, let me change my microphone. I realized. Okay, so because most of the dishes start the same way. The soup starts with onions and garlic. The sweet potato starts with onions and garlic, and whatever. And it's probably the other dish. What is it? The peppers. If you want to do the peppers, of course you have to saute onion and garlic too. So that's something you can do to the same time. You can even saute a whole batch of onion and garlic and then separate it into 2 or 3 bowls, so you have that already done. Okay, so it's all about being smart and imaginative, and trying to get stuff done in a short amount of time. I'm gonna put my onions in. So we're going to cook the black bean soup first. Garlic. And again, no oil in the pan. The heat is currently on high heat. You can certainly cook on medium to high, depending on what pan you're using. A little bit of water. Just to loosen the onions so they don't burn. A bit more. It's very important that you don't want to use too much water. You don't want it to boil. It's very important. Or steam. Then we can steam them. This is to caramelize them. Okay. So now we're going to add our carrot and celery. You can certainly saute it or caramelize them a little bit more. I want to make sure that the bottom of the pan is always clean. Okay. Now we can add our carrots, celery, So we want to make sure they don't burn on the bottom. A little bit of, you can also use broth. That's really up to you. Okay. So now we are adding our diced tomatoes and our spices, cumin and chili powder. So now I can smell the cumin, chili powder, and I'm going to expose it to the heat so the spices open up. Now I'm going to add my black beans. If I'm too fast, let me know. So if you like it spicy, you can actually add jalapenos to it, or you can add pepper flakes later. And you want to fill up the soup. You want to fill up the soup with broth or water until all the vegetables are covered completely. That's about okay. Keep in mind, when we cook black beans, they become creamy. They release their starch and the soup becomes creamier. And that's why black bean soups are so delicious after you have cooked them for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So that's what we're going to do here. If you would like to add salt to it, you can do that. Or it's optional. 1 bay leaf. Two small ones. And we're going to bring it to a boil. And once it starts to boil, we're going to reduce the heat and bring it to a simmer and let it simmer for about 20-25 minutes. Okay. Actually, very good. So in the meanwhile, we are going to heat up my next pan for the sweet potato noodles. And I have cut my noodles into little strips like this because my noodle or spiralizer didn't work. That's, you know, these things are really very flimsy. So I cut it just like this. And that's perfectly fine. So my soup is boiling. I'm gonna reduce the heat. Let it simmer for 25 minutes. In the meanwhile, I'm going to saute onions again. For the sweet potato noodles. Okay, with the garlic. You always have to have water ready for a broth. And then we loosen up all the onions from the pan. Keep in mind, if you cook something that has a white sauce, you cannot caramelize the onions. Then your dish is going to become brown. So if you cook, let's say, potato soup, you don't want to caramelize the onions. You just want them translucent. So you would probably cook them on, you know, medium to high instead of high. Okay. So very important for light applications like cauliflower soup, white bean soup, or potato soup. You don't want to caramelize the onions. Very important. Again, add a little bit of water. Yeah, and any time of our cooking procedure, I want the bottom of the pan completely clean. And you see that it's completely squeaky clean. That's what I want.
During the cooking or the sauteing process, obviously they start to stick to the bottom and caramelize, and that's great. That's what we want for flavor. But then before they start to burn, we're going to add some water to it so that we loosen the residue on the pan. You see it's starting to get brown here. Add a little bit of water, and you can tell there's some caramelization here. And the pan is clean again, and the flavor is in the ingredients and not on the bottom of the pan. Okay. Good. So now we're going to add our carrots and celery. So we're going to stay this just for a minute, and then we'll add our mushrooms. Okay. So you can see I have two things on the stove. My black bean soup is cooking away. I don't even have to pay attention to this. I can check, or I can set my timer for 20 minutes. Always make sure that I have enough liquids in the soup. And here I do my sweet potato noodles. And then to the same time, you could actually cook rice or potatoes or quinoa, whatever you need to cook. You can do that on the third burn right here, because that doesn't take much to look after. So this will make your cooking procedure so much easier. Okay. So before I add the mushrooms, I'm gonna deglaze it with water one more time. So the celery, the carrots gives food the basic flavor of the Europa. Now I'm gonna wait until it starts to cook, and now I'm going to add my mushrooms. In case I was using baby bella, you can use shiitakes. Now we are doing the same thing as before. We're trying to caramelize these mushrooms slightly, just to get a flavor. Remember, the more you caramelize your food, the more flavor you get into your food. You can cook everything together, but you will not have the same flavor palette. Okay, that's why I cook only with water. A lot of you cook with broth, but you can actually reduce your cooking time a little bit because you have a lot of flavor in your broth. I use water. There's no flavor in here. So since I don't use a broth, I have to cook my vegetables long enough to draw out the flavor. Okay. I don't want to overcook it. I just have to caramelize it so I can add sweetness and flavor to the dish. That's why, you know, in the restaurant world, when you order a steak, you wouldn't order a steak that is not. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be talking about steak. But you wouldn't order that if it's not seared or grilled. It's the same with anything else what we do. So we want to get flavor on our food, and that's why we're searing of our food. It brings flavor to the dish. So if you cook on a gas grill, the flame is a little bit more intense, so the dish really comes out even better. This is an electric stove, and it always takes forever to bring the pan up to a boil. Okay. Our soup is slowly simmering. Okay. You can actually hear that the water is disappearing. So that's the time to pay attention and add a little bit of water to it. So in the meanwhile, I'm actually turning on a pan where I can roast my sesame seeds. I don't know if you can see this, you cannot. Okay. Let's put this here. Okay, so now it's the time to add our potatoes. With a little bit of water or liquid. Most potatoes take a few minutes to cook. Okay. Want to make sure that all the vegetables are equally exposed to the heat. A little bit of liquid. So now I'm going to add my sesame seeds into a pan. Nothing in here, just heat. And you will hear actually when the sesame seeds are toasting. We can add our beans as well. If you like salt on your dish, you can add some now. And you can actually see my sesame seeds toasting away. I don't know if you can see, you can tell. They're slowly starting to turn brown. This is enough. As soon as you see they're starting to brown, we'll take them off because they will cook a little bit longer after they're finished. Okay, you can actually tell they're turning slightly brown. That's what we want. So we're going to saute it just maybe for another 2-3 minutes. A little bit of more liquid. Not too much. It's cooking too much. Turn it down. You see, it is really simple to cook 2 or 3 things at the same time. You just have to do it in an organized fashion and knowing what you do and how long it's going to cook. Very simple. Okay, so good question. Greg was asking, how do I flip the food? As every cook can probably tell you, this is not something that you learn in one day. It takes days, weeks, and months to perfect this skill. So I will show you how to do it. For instance, you can learn this by using dry rice. Put dry rice in a pan like this, and then you do it. Can you tell? You do it this way, and then you do this. Okay, and that's how you practice these skills. You basically you want to bring all your ingredients all the way up here in the corner, and then you pull your pan quickly back like this. You see, you pull it like this. Okay, you do that by tilting the pan a little bit like this, and then bring it up. Okay, it's a process you really have to practice over and over, but you will learn it. It's something you just have to practice. Okay, so now we can add our kale. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm using kale. I couldn't find a good Swiss chard. So that's why I'm using kale, but the recipe calls for Swiss chard, which is fine. Any green is fine. But in this case, I'm cooking kale. And you want to make sure that you incorporate it into the dish. Add some liquid to it. And once the kale or the Swiss chard is completely incorporated in the dish, we're going to cover it and let it simmer for just a few minutes. And that will cook our potatoes. That will finish the kale or the Swiss chard, and it brings the dish together. You see now the kale or the Swiss chard, the mushrooms, the potatoes, the beans, and the liquid combines. We're going to cover it, let it simmer, and it's going to create a wonderful experience. You will see the flavors coming together, and it's just a nice dish. Okay. Cover it. Add a little bit more liquid to it. I turn on the heat so it can simmer. And you see my black bean soup, the water is evaporating, which is okay. Because I don't want the soup watery. Okay, that's why I added a little bit more so it can cook down. And once the beans starting to cream up the soup and release their starches, that's when I'm going to add my spinach and my tomatoes. Meanwhile, I can taste the soup. If it needs any seasoning. Salt. And you can already tell that the soup is becoming starchier. You see? Slowly, the soup is taking on a creamier consistency, and that's what I want. Okay, our sesame seeds we can add now. So it can flavor the meal. Okay, Sherry. Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna answer the question in just a minute. Just finish it. Okay, I want to check if my potatoes are cooked. Yes, they are. Add a little bit more salt to it. I'm going to take it off the heat. And pepper. I'm going to add some low sodium soy sauce. Like Trader Joe has low sodium soy sauce, or tamari sauce is a gluten-free soy sauce. You can use that too. Okay. That's it. I don't want to break up the potato too much because I already did. That was not my intention. Okay, so potatoes are cooked. I'm going to let it simmer one more time and then I take it off. Okay, so I'm going to change my camera. Yes. Ready. Okay, let's answer a few questions. Susan is asking, do you ever make a white miso slurry and add it to your soups in other dishes for additional flavor? Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, I do that. Yeah, it's fun actually. Usually you add it to meals that need some umami flavor. So, you know, anywhere where mushrooms are in, you can use miso. Absolutely, it's a great idea. You can experiment. You could use it even in this dish here. I mean, you could try. Just practice and see where you would, you know, have this flavor added to. But it's a good. Usually, I use miso in brown sauces, for instance. It adds some depth to it. Like if you would make a mushroom sauce, for instance, or mushroom stew, miso would work very nicely. Okay. Let's see. When you use kale in recipes as this one, do you remove the stems? Only the last piece of the stem. I don't mind having the stem in there. I cut the entire kale leaf with the stem until I cut almost 3/4 down, and that's when I remove the rest of the stem. I don't mind having the stem in there. Okay. Sherry's asking if my sweet potatoes are frozen. The sweet potatoes are not frozen, they're actually fresh. And I have used fresh potatoes, peeled them, and cut them in long strips. And Sherry F is asking, you spoke of keeping your pan clean while sauteing. I tried to make a hash brown using cubed baked potato and it kept sticking. Absolutely.
even worse when I added water. What that was that because it was cooked already? Sherry, yes, that is a very, very tricky slope. You cannot saute potatoes that easily without oil. Very, very difficult. Takes a lot of practice to cook potatoes without oil. It's better off you do potatoes raw and then saute them in a pan and then add a little bit of water at a time. But cooked potatoes, very difficult to saute without oil. Very, very difficult. What happened to my light? Pretty dark here. Okay. So from that point of view, it's very tricky to do potatoes. What you can do is if you have potato cubes or if you have you want to make a hash brown, roast them in the oven, and then you could saute them with other vegetables together. You know, you want to remove some of the liquid out, the moisture out of the potatoes. If you do that, that's when you can saute in a dry pan. It's tricky. Okay. No, my potatoes are not frozen. They are, you know, they cook very quick, very, very quick. Can you use a combination of purple and orange potatoes? Absolutely, you can use different kind of potatoes. They all cook around the same time. But sweet potatoes cook very fast. Sweet potatoes, purple potatoes cook very fast. They cook faster than white potatoes. Okay. Good. Okay. So our soup is almost there. I only cooked a little bit of soup because I don't need much. Probably needs about another 5 minutes, and that's it. So my sweet potato noodles are ready. Okay. Are there any questions? You have any more questions about the meal plans or any other questions I can help you with? Okay, let me see. If there's any questions here. Oh. Here's one. Oh, okay. Can you please add the carrot ginger dressing to the side? Absolutely. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. Yeah. Let me see if I can do it. Are you're talking about the challenge, correct? Okay, I'm gonna add it to the challenge. So week number 3. Here we go. Recipes. So ginger dressing. All done. Good. So are there any other questions? Now is the time to ask. Okay, the dressing was added. Where do you get, Sherry's asking, where do you get the noodles? I can show you how to cut them if you want. Let me, what is the best way to show you this? Let's see. I think I'm gonna show you one. Super great. Let me see if you can see my board. I'm going to show you how I cut them. Bigger. You want to peel them first, obviously. Then I cut off the little ends. Okay. And what I do next is basically I cut one side of the potato a little bit. That I'm just going to cut this off so I can put it flat on the surface like this, so it's stable. Okay. Then I cut very thin slices. You see? Gotta be careful that you don't cut yourself. I'm not responsible for anyone cutting themselves. See that? So this is how I cut them, and then I'm going to put them on top of each other, like so. Okay, and then I cut again, very thin, like matchsticks. Okay. So that's how I cut my noodles. Okay. Okay. So very simple. Those two. Okay. So see, I actually threw out my sterilizer because it didn't work. That's why this is so much faster for me, and they are. I mean, the sterilizer, it looks nicer, but maybe there are better ones out there. I gotta look for one, but the one I had was really not very good. Okay, my soup is ready. What I like to do is I'm gonna add some of the soup into a blender. Because I like my soup a little creamy. You want to make sure that the soup is cooled out. Don't do what I do here, because that's dangerous. So you want to make sure that take out the bay leaf, very important. I'm going to put what half. I'm just going to pulse it very quickly. Just to get enough creaminess into the soup. I'm going to return it back into the soup. That gives me the creaminess, what I crave. So now we can add our spinach. Let me change my camera quickly so you can see what I do. And you can add a tiny little bit of liquid to it. Now I'm going to add my spinach, which I cut a little bit, 2-3 times. I cut the leaves so they are not as big as they are, even though it's baby spinach. But I want it to wilt really, really quickly. Add this. Add the sliced grape tomatoes. That's it. Want to give it one quick boil, just one time, because whenever you add raw stuff into a cooked mixture and you don't bring it to a boil, it's going to spoil, or it could spoil. So you want to bring it up to a boil one time. That's it. Okay. Starting to boil, I can turn it off. That's it. We want to make sure we taste it. Always taste your food in the middle, towards the end, and all the way. Nice, nice. That's it. Soup is done. And if one trick, if you find yourself where the food, something is missing, but you don't know what, just add a drop or a few drops of Tabasco. You don't want to make your food spicy with Tabasco. Just add a few drops. A few drops of Tabasco, actually adding flavor to your food. I'm not saying you put enough in so that you taste the spiciness. You don't want that. Just a few drops. They bring up the natural flavor of your food. If you want to make your food spicy, don't use Tabasco. Use something else, like a pepper sauce or pepper flakes or jalapenos. But Tabasco is a secret to flavor your food, just with a few drops. Oh my God, good. Okay, that's it. That's it. So, oh my goodness, the potatoes, goodness, oh, delicious. You see, this is what I want for you. Make a dish that you really love, that you like. Find meals that you love, and it's so much fun. It's so much fun to eat throughout the week foods that you enjoy. So that's what I want for you, that you make foods. Obviously, not every of my recipes you probably like, but hopefully you find some of the recipes and they become your favorites. And when you have this, you always have something to fall back to. Okay. Good. Okay. Let's see if we have any questions here. Good subs for eggplant. Mushrooms. Mushrooms is always good, or you can add zucchini, yellow squash, any squash you can add. But usually mushrooms are the best option. Good substitute for eggplant. Again, mushrooms. Mushrooms is a perfect way to go. Okay, good. Susan, I know that. I know that's low sodium soy sauce is watered down. It's obvious that it is watered down, but it gives you still the umami flavor that some of us crave. So it's just an option. You don't have to use it. Okay. Let's see. Oh, good. Thanks, Greg. The professional sterilizer in here. Thanks. Excellent. Thank you so much for this. Very good. I didn't see this. Good. Okay, wonderful. Okay. You cooked along with me. That's so cool. Nice, Linda. Excellent. How did it come out? Linda, how did it come out? Let me know. Usually I gotta still cooking. Okay. I'm a bit slower than you. Okay, good, but nice, excellent, wonderful. Usually I ask if someone is cooking with me. I apologize, I didn't do this time, because we have a lot of newbies here, so to speak, and I don't want to ever overwhelm anyone, but always feel, welcome to cook with me. It's fun, definitely fun. Okay, great, wonderful. Okay, yes, you can, I see this here, you can weigh in again tomorrow morning. Feel free to do that in the challenge group. It's always nice to see how far everyone has gotten. I hope to see your creations on the challenge group. I have to be honest, I got hundreds of emails, hundreds of comments on the site, and I haven't answered all of them. Please bear with me. I will do that. It's a lot of stuff that I've been trying to answer one by one. I will get to every email. Just bear with me. Thank you so much. So I would say, if you don't have any other questions, I would say I'd see you throughout the week. Okay, one more question here. Sherry is asking, is Frank's hot sauce pretty much the same as Tabasco? No, it's not. It's not. Tabasco is something what is aged in a barrel. So it has a completely different flavor profile. A lot of people underestimate Tabasco sauce, and they actually think, oh, that's a very low-end hot sauce. It's not. It's a fantastic flavor tool to make your dishes fantastic without making them spicy. That's the key. Good. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. You know where to reach me. I see you tomorrow in our accountability session, and have a great day. Have a good week. Everyone who just joined, reach out to me if you have any questions. anyone who is in a challenge, I wish you a good challenge, and I'll see you throughout the week. Okay, thank you so much. Again, who's on Facebook, anyone who is watching on YouTube, please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed this live stream, and follow my channel. That helps me grow my YouTube channel. And thank you so much. I'll see you throughout the week. Be safe and think plant-based.